Our guest today is my very special friend, Brett Tiaras, and Brett is a psychic and a medium, and he has a very vast and I'd say rather interesting background in the world of the metaphysical. Welcome, Brett.
Hello, thanks for having me, Mary Ellen.
Well, today on our show, and it was your suggestion that we called it Demystifying Mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where we're going to go with it. The one question I find that people always want to know is, when did you realize that you had abilities that were a little bit different from other people's?
Well, it wasn't myself who really noticed it. It runs in the family. So my mom was the first person who actually encouraged any kind of belief in mysticism, the occult, anything like that, because my mom is also a medium herself. She does communicate with spirits who have passed on, as was my grandmother. So when I was 8, she was like, here, take this deck of tarot cards and see where it goes. And that's how I got started. So I grew up in that environment. So this has been nurtured since childhood with me, and it's gotten me here. You know, it's gotten me to where I am today.
Perfect. That's very cool. Did either your mother or your grandmother do it professionally? Did they have people that came and saw them?
My grandmother never did it professionally. My mom never did it professionally either, but my grandmother did do it for free, for friends, for family. She would often sit at her kitchen table playing cards. She would play solitaire all day long and take phone calls all day long. You know, so when I was over there, that was never really discussed, but I'm like, there was something more to Grandma. There was definitely something more, but no, never professionally. I was the only one who got the calling.
Well, that's an interesting background story. It's a little bit different for most people. Tell us, you know, exactly what you do as far as the field of the metaphysical or the mystical.
As far as the metaphysical and the mystical, what I do is I do psychic readings. I also do mediumship, which is not just readings, but it's also dealing with the spirits that you're communicating with. It's the biggest misconception that I'm just here to contact your deceased loved ones. That's not the case. You know, there are many other facets to that. You know, I'm the person who you go to get that spirit cleansed, to get that spirit removed, to figure out, is this a family member? Why are they communicating with me? You know, so I do that as well.
Well, you know, one thing, when we look in the telephone book for psychics, you know, and they look in the telephone book, I notice that, and I don't know if it's still true today, but they used to list it as psychic mediums, which I always thought was a little bit of a misnomer, because not all psychics are mediums.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums.
Absolutely.
And simply because a person has psychic ability doesn't mean they have the ability to contact those who have passed on.
Absolutely. Not just someone who contacts somebody who has passed on, but a medium by definition is somebody who communicates with all spirits. You know, so whether it's a spirit guide, whether it is a guardian angel, whether it's a, you know, if you're looking in some of the other traditions, whether or not it's a Loa, whether or not it's an Orisha, that's the job of the medium, to determine who it is, what they want, and what they're doing.
Right. You know, the ancient pre-Christian traditions, that was really what the shamans did. Okay. So, you know, the term medium is kind of like the mediator between the spiritual or the astral realm and our physical realm.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and we're intermediaries between this realm and the next. You know, so when we're the people who are standing halfway in between, you know, we're almost like those gatekeepers. So it is a great responsibility, and you're absolutely right. Not every psychic has that ability, and it's not an ability that you really can develop. You either have it or you don't.
That has always been my feeling, is that it is an innate talent. Because I kind of, you know, you have people that think, oh, that would be so cool. Actually, it's not so cool.
No,
okay,
not
all the time. but it's kind of like people that want to be a musician, but they don't have innate musical talent. They can study music, but for the most part, they're never going to be as good as a person who has that inborn musical talent, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct, because there are schools that teach mediumship. There are colleges in England. There are colleges all over the UK and even here that do teach that do certify that. But like I said, you either have it or you don't.
Right.
You know, you can know the techniques, you can know the history, you can know how to do it, but the effectiveness is really determined as whether or not you have that within you. I definitely consider it the seventh sense, you know, because we already have the sixth sense of perception, but I almost consider it like the seventh sense, you know, because you look beyond that, you know, you use beyond your regular clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience. You use more when you're doing mediumship.
Oh, indeed. And the thing is that it's not something that should be entered into lightly. You know, it really is not. It's not all Long Island medium, shall we say.
Not at all. Not at all, because spirits come in many different forms, and some can be as friendly as your disincarnate relative, or some can be as nasty as an unevolved spirit who is draining the life out of you, or who is messing up your environment.
Right. It's like I say, just because they're dead doesn't mean they're smart,
Absolutely.
all-knowing, or nice.
Absolutely. And they do maintain some agenda after they've passed on, you know, so that spirit may be sent to someone for a specific purpose, and that's our job to determine, how do we remove this? What are they doing? How can we get this off of someone? You know, because they do cause problems, and because they are halfway in between, they take from the physical world to feed them and to give them the strength that they need to move forward.
Indeed. You mentioned, you know, different types of spiritual entities. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Spirits go through an evolutionary process. You know, after we pass on, they go into the next realm, and they go in stages, in evolutionary stages. So you have, you know, in the middle, you have the disincarnate people who are like relatives, families that have passed on. You have the lower energies, or the lower entities beneath that, who are considered tricksters, or they're considered like the ones that are inhabiting houses. They're not beyond that point yet. They're still attached to the material world through means of either the method of their death or unfinished business. Below that, below the lower entities is, and I don't throw out the term very lightly, but that's when you get into the stuff that's considered demonic, because it's intelligent, it's trickster, it's malicious, and they are here for the purpose of dragging down our own personal evolutionary process while we're here. And then after the disincarnate entities, going back to the middle, above that you have your guardians. You know, you have the spirits who are more evolved. They've been through more lifetimes. They've gone through more of an evolutionary process. Beyond that are the spirit guides that come down, give us information. They're intelligent. They give us intelligent responses, and they have a little bit more of an understanding beyond our own perception. After that, they're more highly evolved spirits. You know, until you get to, you know, something that's considered like an angel, or what we would call like an angel or an ascended master. And then after that, you leave this realm. You know, you no longer are incarnated as a spirit or as a person on this realm.
Now, one question that I get very often from clients is they want to know, who is my guardian angel? And they think it's their grandma or their grandpa or some other person that they knew that passed on. And it's always my understanding that someone like that would be more like a spirit that was with you, and that an angelic presence is very often spiritual energy that never has been, how should we put it, in a corporeal body, or incarnated in a body.
They may have been incarnated at one time, but ages and ages and ages ago. You know, they choose to go beyond the corporeal existence and focus solely on guiding, guarding, and protecting. Because angelic beings, like lower angelical beings, can, there is the possibility of them living lifetimes on this planet very, very long ago.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So what kind of special preparation do you do before a mediumship session?
The preparation for a mediumship session is a lot more intense and difficult than a regular session. The whole area has to be prepared. The old adage, cleanliness is next to godliness? Mm-hmm. It's true. If your space is in disarray, what you have to do is you have to organize it, because energy kind of gets stuck. It gets stuck in the mess. Mm-hmm. So I try and make sure the area is clean, not only physically, but also mm-hmm. spiritually, by either saging or frankincensing to raise the spiritual vibration. And then I also use a combination of different colognes, different spiritual waters to make a very pleasing environment for good energy, good vibrations. Spirits tend to respond to fragrance surprisingly well, because a sharp citrusy fragrance like a Florida water or a Kananga water will attract good energy, but will dispel negative energy. I also use a combination of prayers. I know it's kind of formulaic, but I generally start with the Catholic prayers and Our Father, 3 Hail Marys, the Creed, and then prayers to Archangel Michael, and also to open up the gate for my own ancestors to come through and guide me in the process. I always feel it's essential to call in someone to function as your guide when you're medium, to help you kind of direct the traffic, direct the flow of energy. Because once you open yourself up, it's like a never-ending highway. So you need someone who's going to direct the traffic and control who can talk to you and who can't.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a much more involved process, because I think people think they're just going to come in for a session and then, boom, lay it on you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're going to tell them what Uncle Harry is doing on the other side.
Yeah.
Or where he hid his insurance policy.
Absolutely. And that's generally why I request people to tell me in advance, because it takes approximately a half an hour more to prepare for that kind of a session at the beginning of the day. I also ask that people bring something that was memorabilia, or at least state their name. Because if you state their name, if you state their intention, you're going to draw them closer and you're going to draw them quicker. And that's why people are like, well, guess. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to guess. You're going to tell me who you want to talk to, and then my guide will bring that person forward quickly and efficiently.
Right.
So it's for the client's benefit, not my own.
That's what I asked them to do, too. A picture and something the person wore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, let's face it, how many spirits are out there? And they want you to just focus on one. You need something to differentiate.
Absolutely, and there was something that was written by a Caribbean person, Caribbean spiritualist, and they state that people have approximately 7 to 8 spirits around them at all times.
Right.
So you want to make sure you get the right one.
Yeah.
So you need that connection. You need the sympathetic connection so that you can draw that energy closer.
Indeed.
And it gives for a much clearer and a much more concise session for the client.
Interesting. So how do you perceive the spirits? Is it clairaudient? Do you see them?
It's a combination. I don't see them in full-body apparitions. Okay. I generally see them clairvoyantly in my third eye when I close my eyes. Spirits will also appear in glasses of water and in candle flames.
Oh.
Any spirit that comes through clairaudiently, I don't hear what they sound like. All I can hear is my own spirit guide talking to me, telling me what they're saying.
Indeed.
Yeah. So you do. You need that. You definitely need a stronger connection.
Okay. So it's not like in the movies where the person goes under trance and starts to talk in a different voice?
There are some people who are trance mediums.
Right.
But that's a dangerous, dangerous occupation, because you never know if that spirit is going to disengage.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
I had that happen a couple times. It was not pleasant.
Oh, dear.
It was not pleasant. So, okay. Are you familiar with... going to bring out a relic from the past. Spirit trumpets. Spirit trumpets were used by spiritualists in the 1800s and up through, I think, the 60s or 70s in seances.
Absolutely. It does create a white noise effect with the air going through here, so it gives you a clearer connection to the spirit when they're speaking to you. I've never used one myself in a session, but they definitely were popular.
Okay. And what do you think about very often a person's first exposure to the mysterious, contacting the world of spirit, is Ouija board?
No. Yeah, the Ouija board is definitely a big no-no. I'm actually surprised that they still sell them. Ouija board should really only be used if you are a trained medium, because the Ouija board functions as a door. You know, usually there's a planchette that they have that moves from letter to letter. You never know who you're opening yourself up to. There have been many cases where Ouija boards do a bunch of strange things if you try and throw them out. And these are not, they're not fictitious experiences. I know some people myself who the only way to get rid of it was to burn it and bless it, because they would break the planchette would come back together and it'd be appearing on their doorstep the next morning. So these are no joke. You definitely open yourself up to the trickster energies, to whatever energy, to whatever energy or entity is in that area, and they have access to information that we don't. So of course they can tell you that they're your grandma, or of course they can tell you that they're your uncle, but in actuality they're not. And once you put the board away, you've now called that spirit into this world, and they either stay with you or they wreak havoc other places.
Indeed, I would agree. I think unless you know what you're doing, Ouija board is kind of like the equivalent of driving to a bad area of town and putting a free beer sign on your car.
Absolutely.
Some of the people might be nice, but a lot of them won't be.
Absolutely. So definitely proceed with caution.
So, could you give us a demonstration, just a small demonstration of what you do for the members of our audience?
Sure, absolutely. I have already prepared the space, and in front of me is the candle and the glass of water. It makes it easier for spirits to communicate as the candle heats them up, and they do appear and they do communicate through the water. So, generally what I do is I start and I ask clients, what specific spirit would you like to contact today?
My mother.
Okay.
Do you need the name?
Yeah, give me your first name.
Lucille.
Okay, the image that's coming to me is a woman who is fiery, like very, very fiery and very, very sharp, very, very quick-witted. Somebody who may not have expressed everything that was going on in their mind. Somebody who kept a lot to themselves. Did you have any specific questions that you'd like to ask her?
Is she happy with how her things were handled?
The first answer that I'm getting is a no, but she'll deal. And those were her words exactly. No, but I'll deal. So I do feel like she is, I do feel like she's a little bit standoffish and a little bit reluctant to answer, and I see her kind of turning her head. I also see her kind of pointing and signaling to a man that was involved, because I do feel like there was a man, and there was an issue with a man that she's not happy with at this point in time.
Would that be my father, or is it a man that's passed on, or a man that's still here?
It is a man that's still here.
Ah.
And I do feel like would be younger than your father.
Okay.
So I do feel like there was an issue there in how things were handled. So not necessarily happy with that. But I do feel like she is. I do feel like she is close, and I do feel like she's more of the I'm going to stand back and watch. I'm not necessarily going to be actively involved kind of person. But I do feel like she is very active, and I feel like she also oversees. I feel like she also oversees a child, or she's helping you oversee a child. Because I do see her. I do see her very caring and very in that, and very connected to that, helping you through a process with the child.
Does she have any messages?
As far as any specific messages, she's shaking her head. Yeah, and she keeps on saying, I told you everything you need to know at this point in time.
Okay. I would say that's approximately right.
Okay.
Okay, because there was a man who was living in her house who did cause some damage there.
Okay.
And I could see where she would have some consternation about him.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because he chopped down bushes and did things he wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah, she's flustered.
Yes.
A lot of hard work she put into it, and I get a sense of flustered, and I get a sense of she's not going to make it any easier.
Well, he's kicked out now anyway. So.
Yeah. All right. And she did depart. She is going.
Okay. Now, one question I would ask is, do you think the spirits are communicating a little bit differently? Do you think the spirits are aware of the presence of the camera and that we're being filmed?
I think they are aware of that because it does add to the electromagnetic field of the area. So it does kind of throw off the communication a little bit. She probably would communicate more direct in a dark room, in a room that was completely prepared. So she probably would have more to say then, yes.
Okay. So, I'm sure that people come in sometimes with agendas of people that have passed on they want to contact.
Absolutely.
But what happens if their dearly departed person fails to manifest?
You just have to be honest, because not all spirits want to be communicated with. One instance that's kind of heartbreaking for me is there was a woman, and I was doing a party at somebody's house. I was doing an event, and this woman came in and wanted to communicate with her daughter who had passed on. Her daughter wanted nothing to do with the woman, and her daughter actually, the spirit of her daughter, I saw her when I closed my eyes. She told me, and I did not tell the mother this, but she told me flat out, I have nothing to say to her. She needs to stop bothering me.
Whoa.
And she turned her back, and I had to tell the woman, I'm sorry, your daughter has nothing to say to you at this time.
Oh dear. Did she cry?
No, she was actually quite angry with me, and she's like, well, my daughter always has something to say. And I'm like, she didn't have anything to say today. And I told the woman, I'm not going to make something up for your daughter. I go by what they tell me, or I go by what my guide tells me. And my guide tells me that no further information can be given. So I'm sorry. I'll be happy to refund the session for you, but I can't ask your daughter anything.
Indeed.
You just have to handle it in a very direct and very professional manner, because they don't understand. They're like, well, of course I can get an answer. No, you can't always get an answer from your child who's passed on. They may be in some place. They may be in what's called a limbo, where they haven't transitioned fully from this world into the next one. You're in a fog,
right? So
sometimes you can't communicate, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Right, and I think sometimes issues that you had when the person was alive, the spirit's still going to have them even though they've passed on.
Absolutely. And it takes them a long time to kind of let go of that envelope, to let go of their human envelope and focus on what's coming next. And that is also some of the things that keeps a spirit here on this realm. Somebody has that, I've lost them, I miss them, I wish they were here, I wish they were here, I wish they were here. That's pretty much a prayer. I want them back. I want them here. Right. So it's now preventing them from moving on into their own evolutionary process.
Right. Sort of like crying about them all the time.
Absolutely.
I had a client whose mother had, I think she had passed on 3 or 4 years, and this woman would still talk about her and cry, and I was like, every time you do that, it's kind of like you're guilt-tripping your mom.
Absolutely.
She had no control.
Absolutely.
When it's the time. And I said, you're not helping her transition.
Yep.
When you're crying, you're tying her here. Because, what can the spirit do to make you feel better?
Nothing.
Nothing.
All they can do is leave you tokens of their appreciation, tokens of their presence, or they can visit you in your dreams.
Right.
But even then, your communication gets less and less frequent as that spirit becomes more and more evolved.
Exactly.
So, and people need to realize that.
Or as a connection, as more time has passed since they've passed on, the connection gets less and less and less. It's like a person that's moved to another country.
Absolutely. And unless you actively participate in a spiritual tradition that focuses on feeding your ancestors and providing them with sustenance, then, you're not going to have the strong connection that you have.
Indeed. What advice would you give to somebody who was seeking to contact a medium and to make a reconnection with people that have passed on? How would you tell them to go about it?
I would tell them to go about it in a very researched manner. You definitely have to research who you're going to, because there are some people who call themselves mediums and they don't get as strong of a connection as somebody who is inherently a medium. Your best bet, I feel, would actually be to contact your local spiritualist church, or go to somebody who is reputable that you're referred to by someone that you know. That, I feel, would be the best way to choose your medium. And you also have to kind of interview them to see which one's right for you, because some are a lot more compassionate than others. And I can tell you from my own personal experience and how I operate from a place of, I'm an intermediary, I'm the information giver. I'm not here to heal the wounds between you and your loved one. So you also have to look at what your own needs are before you look at who can satisfy those needs for you.
Very good. Well, I think this has been an informative and certainly a most interesting experience. Thank
Absolutely.
you for coming to the show today, Brett.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching today. I hope you found this session as interesting as I did. Tune in again for our future shows. We'll be exploring hypnosis, paranormal exploration, and the world of psychicness and astrology. Thank you. Have a marvelous day.